If you look at a map of the Middle East, the Strait of Hormuz looks like a geographical anomaly. It's a tiny 21-mile wide strip of water separating Oman and Iran. A lot of people look at this map and ask a very logical question. The Strait of Hormuz doesn't even connect two oceans, like the Panama Canal or the Strait of Malacca. It's essentially a geographical dead end leading into the Persian Gulf. So why is the entire world's energy market held hostage by this one tiny choke point? And Saudi Arabia has a massive coastline on the Red Sea. Why can't they just pump their oil in the opposite direction and bypass Hormuz entirely? These are fantastic questions, especially now that the strait is epicenter of the massive global crisis. Friends, we are going to strip away the political noise and look at the hard geology, the pipeline math, the mega canal rumors that you might have heard of, and the brutal reality of global energy logistics. To understand why a dead end body of water is so critical, you have to understand the geology of the Persian Gulf. The Strait of Hormuz is not a transit corridor. Ships do not use it to take a shortcut from point A to point B. Instead, think of the Persian Gulf as a loading dock for the world's largest gas station. Beneath the shores and the shallow waters of the Persian Gulf lies the greatest concentration of hydrocarbons on planet Earth. You have the Safaniya oil field and the Ghawar field in Saudi Arabia. Then you have the massive Bergen field in Kuwait. And you have the South Pars North Dome gas condensate field shared by Iran and Qatar, which is the largest natural gas field in the world. Historically, the coastal nations, Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq, the UAE, Kuwait, and Qatar, they built their massive extraction, refining, and export infrastructure right on the edge of the Persian Gulf, because that is exactly where the oil is. To get that oil to the global market, massive supertankers must sail into this dead end, load up millions of barrels, and sail back out. And the only way out is the Strait of Hormuz. Normally, 20 to 21 million barrels of oil per day flow through this 21-mile gap. That is roughly 20% of total global petroleum consumption and over 26% of all seaborne oil trade. About 20% of the world's liquefied natural gas, LNG, that trade also passes through here. But right now in March 2026, this isn't just a geographical theory, it is an active, terrifying reality. Following the severe escalation of the US-Israeli war with Iran, Tehran has effectively closed the strait. Traffic has plummeted by an astonishing 97%. Commercial vessels and oil tankers have been struck by drones and missiles, and hundreds of ships are stranded. Now, who relies on this? The real victims of a Hormuz closure are in Asia, not in the West. Roughly 80% to 90% of the oil and gas leaving the Strait of Hormuz is destined for Asian powerhouses. China, Japan, South Korea, and, of course, crucially, India. If the strait stays closed, it doesn't just mean high gas prices. It means the manufacturing engines of Asia grind to an absolute halt. Because of this sheer panic, you might have heard rumors of viral discussions recently about a massive new project, a water connection or a canal being dug straight from the Persian Gulf to the Gulf of Oman, cutting right across the UAE to bypass Hormuz entirely. But friends, let me be clear. On paper, it sounds like the perfect silver bullet. In reality, it is an engineering and geopolitical fantasy. To build an artificial waterway capable of handling very large crude carriers, the VLCCs, the ships that carry over 200,000 tons of cargo and require a 20-meter draft, You can't just dig a trench in the sand. A UAE canal would have to cut roughly 100 kilometers across the peninsula and blast straight through the solid rock of the Hajar Mountains, which stand over like 1,000 meters tall. Factoring in the astronomical volume of Earth, that needs moving, and the massive water evaporation rates of the desert sun, engineers estimate this would cost upwards of 200 billion to 300 billion. And even if they had the money, it would take decades to complete. Furthermore, a canal is just as vulnerable to a targeted drone strike as a strait is. It does not solve our problem today. This brings us to the actual bypass infrastructure that exists right now. Why can't Saudi Arabia and the UAE just use pipelines? The short answer is they're trying to right now, but the math simply doesn't scale. You cannot fit a fire hose of oil through a garden hose pipeline. You know what I mean? Let's look at the infrastructure currently being stress tested. First, there is this Saudi bypass. Saudi Arabia has the east-west pipeline, the petrol line. It runs over 1,200 kilometers from their eastern oil fields straight across the desert to the port of Yanbu on the Red Sea. Similarly, there is the UAE bypass. The UAE has the Habshan Fujairah pipeline, pumping oil from Abu Dhabi to the port of Fujairah on the Gulf of Oman, which is safely outside of the strait. Here is the problem: capacity. The Saudi pipeline can handle about 5 to 7 million barrels per day. The UAE pipeline can handle about just 1.5 to 1.8 million barrels per day. Right now, with the Hormuz closed, these countries are pumping at absolute maximum capacity, but they can only move a combined maximum of about 7 to 9 million barrels. Remember our fire hose number? The world needs 20 million barrels a day from that region. The bypass pipelines leave a massive, unfillable gap of over 11 million barrels of oil a day that simply cannot reach the market. So friends, the Strait of Hormuz remains critical because it is the only viable exit door for the most oil-rich geographical basin in the world. Mega canals are decades away from being realistic, and the current bypass pipelines are nowhere near large enough to replace the sheer volume of supertankers. That is why geography is destiny. Until the world completely transitions away from fossil fuels, whoever controls that 21-mile stretch of water holds a massive, dangerous lever over the global economy. And right now, we are watching that lever being pulled. Friends, please hit those like, share, and subscribe buttons before you forget. This is Bharat Leads. Jai Hind.